Hey guys, welcome to the Eco 9 stream. I'm John Kay. I'm designer of Eco, CEO of Strange Loop, and I'm going to be giving you a tour today of our new government systems constitution that we've added to the game, and kind of start off this series we're doing on Eco 9 updates. So we posted a blog today. Check it out in our Steam page or in the email if you're subscribed to that. But we're going to do weekly updates describing what's going into Eco 9 and build up to our launch, which is coming at an undisclosed date, but we're probably going to announce that date soon. It's in the not too distant future. So yeah, we got some people helping answer questions on chat, so feel free to answer things on there. And yeah, let me show you some stuff. So take a look here. This is a Capitol building that our QA lead Anna put together. Pretty awesome demo of some of the new building tools we got. You can see some of these new statues we got of different animals in. So in addition to new systems, we're going to have tons of new just building architectures and all kinds of interesting new objects. But one of the main systems we're going to be looking at today, what I want to intro first in this series, is the Constitution system. So previously in Eco, you would have a government that was basically put together. You would fill in the blanks. You know, you would choose, you would elect a leader, you would create laws. But in this new system, which we built with Eco 9, is you're actually creating that government yourself. So you're deciding how are leaders elected, what are the leaders that can be elected, what are the positions available, and how are laws passed. You know, are they passed by election, are they passed by representatives? So we've added a lot of flexibility into that system and how all of that works. So let's take a look at the Capitol. So this is the first object you build in order to create a new government inside of Eco. So you'll put this one down inside of a building. It doesn't necessarily have to be as fancy as this one, but it helps, and I'll get into reasons why for a bit later. And open it up, and you'll see the constitution that is generated. So first of all, you get this default constitution. And we're still working on the UI here, so that's coming along. But the idea is that you will have a list of articles, civic articles, that each define a different aspect of how the government works. So you can see the ones that are put in here by default. We have an article about how to change laws, an article about how executive actions work, district maps, election processes, elected titles, demographics, constitutional amendments. So these are all different aspects of the government that you can now add. And so as not to be super overwhelming, we put this in, we give you nice default settings. And you can kind of see the font we're going for. We're going for to make this a really interesting kind of historic event. Like when users create this constitution, this is a big moment in the server. This is when you first found your government, because you can't create any laws before this. So this is going to be a pretty early object that you build and make available to your citizens. So creating the building for this, building this thing, deciding what goes into it, it's going to be a pretty cool historic event. Let me just check if this is working. Yep, looks like chat's coming through. Good. So yeah, so you can name your constitution. This will be EcoStream Constitution. I'm curious what you guys think of the font. This is too small right now, but I wanted to get something that is kind of like grand looking, but it is a little hard to read, so we might revisit that. Constitution for a New World. So here is the first article you can see is the different options you can choose for it. So this one decides how laws are created in this world. So say you want to, you can have it a number of different things that it can affect. Constitutional amendments, demographics. All of these are things I'll make separate blogs for and tell you guys about in future streams. Just focusing on the Constitution for right now. But let's say that we want to decide how laws work in Eco. So you choose this article applies to laws, which laws you want to apply to. You can limit it if you want. You can have any law or laws that do certain things, changing taxes, preventing actions, etc. And then you can go even further than that, that you can have laws that affect specific actions. So we've revamped the law system, and this will be a whole blog and stream in itself. But now there's all these different actions in the game, and whenever these actions are triggered by a user or by the system, they go through the law system. So you can check these out and see, here's a big list of different things that are all triggered by laws, which you can define in the game. Decide, are we going to tax this? Are we going to prevent it? Are we going to limit it to certain districts? All kinds of crazy stuff you can do with this stuff. There's tons of these now. We made the system really easy to add these, so that's why we have just a whole lot of them. And each one of them has all documentation and explanation on it. You can view the tooltips on these and see what they mean. Like this one, and when a citizen claims or unclaims property, it'll trigger this law, trigger this action, and the action has all these separate properties that you can use inside of the law. So for now, we'll just allow it to, this article affects any law that's created using any type of actions. And then we define who is able to, how are these laws created, how are these laws changed. And that's done with these three parameters. So we have executors, and these are people who can perform these actions immediately. And we can pick, either a specific user, maybe we want to make a dictator in the game, or you can limit it to demographics or elected titles. We don't have any elected titles right now, but you'll see that in this list as well. So we could say only active players are able to execute laws immediately. Or maybe we make something that, players who have played a certain number of hours or who own this much property. A demographic is just a group of people that's defined automatically. So if we can see on the active one, everything's got tooltips. So you can see an active player is, the requirements are online hours of citizen in the last 2 days is greater than 0.05. So in this test world, we got 3 citizens, and they all have more playtime than 0.05 hours in the last 2 days, so they're all considered active users. So this determines a set of users that can be executors, and I think I'll just make myself a dictator here so that I can create or delete laws, without election whenever I want. It's that kind of server. And so the other 2 properties here, you're going to see proposers and election processes. So if you are not an executor, you can still propose an election for this, for laws to be added, changed, or removed. And this field defines who can start the proposal. So right now we have everyone. Maybe we want to limit that to active. Maybe we want to be a specific user. Maybe we create a custom demographic or a title or an elected title that only an elected official can propose elections. So you have all kinds of flexibility in how you set this up. And lastly, you have the election process. You'll notice that all these have tooltips, so you can kind of learn how they work by just mousing over stuff. It was one of the design philosophies you want, is that everything is very self-explanatory. Each property you can explore and see how it works with tooltips. Every object has definitions of what it does. And you have nested tooltips, so if you want to see the reputation on this person, it's right there. So election processes are basically the rules of the election that will take place. So the reason this exists, previously there was just one type of election, but I wanted to make that a lot more flexible so that you can have elections that, for example, finish quickly, elections that can be vetoed by certain people, elections that are, say, only certain people can vote in them, like representatives or elected officials. So that way you could have kind of a representative government that's created. So this basic election, this is an election process that just by default is created. And you can see the tooltip's kind of cut off here, but you can see who can vote in this election. Oh, everyone can vote. Who can veto? Nobody can veto. 24 hours to win, etc. And then there's all these different properties that you can actually create new election processes and define how these elections work. because I want elections to be kind of a big event in the world, or you're trying to make a big change, and these are great for defining how exactly that works. So we'll leave this on basic election now because there's just that one option until you add custom ones. And then the text here will describe exactly how this article works to change any law. Any active player may do so immediately. So that should say John K. And then everyone may propose an election of type basic election. So we've customized this article, and then we can go through and customize all these ourselves, or even remove them. Like, say we don't want executive actions in our Constitution, we'll just delete that article from the list. So then once you have a Constitution that you like, and this is something that you can kind of design with other players in mind, have discussions on your server, make it a big, important event in the growth of your world. Then you'll need to ratify it. So until you ratify it, this Constitution isn't going to take effect. So as long as there's no other constitutions active, you can ratify it at any time. So yes, let's start a vote to ratify it. So when you ratify it, it starts a basic election vote, and it goes out to all players, and you have to wait until everybody's voted, or until you have a majority of the voted, and then it'll either pass or fail. If it fails, you can go back and modify it and resubmit it. So you can see here, this Constitution is currently under election. Nobody's voted in it yet. I'm going to show how voting and elections work in a future stream. So for now, I will do a cheat command to just win this election really quickly. Alright, what is the command? Luckily, we have this helpful search. Let me see. Oh, I think it is. Oh, there it is. Fin. This is a new feature we can add. As you can see, we have a ton of commands now, so if you type something in, it'll search all the commands and tell you matching strings. So great for server management, great for kind of setting up custom stuff. So force finish this. You can see it sends out a notice to all players. A new Constitution has been ratified. Motion passed. And then you see your civic duties that you now have available. So it's telling you, by this civic article, because you're an active player, you may start elections to change demographics at any census bureau. You may vote in elections in a ballot box. You can change elected titles at any government office. So there's all these new objects that contain all the new parts of government. We also made this available in the government menu down here. So if you open this up, you can see what the active government is right now. So right now there's one election process. There's a number of constitutional articles that are active, and they're all described here, basically what they do. You can see any elections that are happening. You can see demographics that are in effect. You can see your civic duties. So this one's kind of nice for just seeing, like, what can I personally do, considering what the current Constitution says. Well, because I'm a member of Active, I can start elections, I can vote in elections for demographics, and for law, because I gave myself that dictator power, I can change any law immediately at any court. So that's nice, but you'll notice these other ones, I can only start elections. So let's take a look. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on how laws work. I'm going to save that for a future stream. But Anna did set up a nice courtroom in here. This is our new court object. I'm going to fix the lighting on that. But now you can see when you open the court, this is where you create new laws. So my available duties here, and it links the constitutional article that is giving me these powers. I have the ability to change things immediately. So I can just go ahead and draft a new law. This is the law screen. I'll give a full demo of that later. But say I want to say whenever chat happens, prevent it. And because I have these dictator powers, boom, that is now in action. Chat is prevented in the server. Let's test it out. Yep, and you can see if I try to chat, that action is prevented by law. And you can actually see the law is linked that I'm breaking there. So yeah, it's a nice way to really silence a server. Probably not one you would actually want to use in a server. So the last thing I wanted to demo to you guys, and then I'll start going through the chat, is the constitutional amendments. So the thing with a constitution, once it's ratified, this sucker's permanent. So you can never change these articles once it's been ratified, directly on the Constitution anyway. If you want to change them, you have this system called amendments. So an amendment will make changes to an active Constitution. Let me show you real quick. So if you remember, on the Constitution, one of the articles is about constitutional amendments. So who can make constitutional amendments? Well, everyone may propose an election. So over here at our amendments object, this is an amendments list. We will draft an amendment to the Constitution. We'll say it's too much power that we're giving John Kay to be able to make laws whenever he wants. You know, he's gone mad with power. He's making crazy laws about chat. Let's remove that power. So here we have remove existing article. We will get rid of law changes by election. This is the one where John Kay may do so immediately. And let's replace it with something that's a little more fair. More fair laws article. And this applies to any laws. And executors will be, let's say, nobody. Nobody can pass these. Everything's got to go through an election. And then only active players can take part in a basic election. I'll show you the kind of help we have for this. So see if you forget a parameter, it'll tell you, this is missing. It gives you this little nice error up here. Proposers were set, but you didn't pick which election. So really trying to take this pretty complex and powerful system and make it as much easy and fun to work with that you're making choices, but you can still get some pretty complex stuff. And if you make a mistake, it'll nicely alert you to what it is, so you don't have to try to figure out what's wrong with this. It tells you exactly what's happening. So that was one of the goals of this new system, is to powerful but easy and flexible. So make that basic election. There we go. So I propose this amendment, and there we go. I started an election. You can see John Kay started an election, add constitutional amendment 1, and it tells me what's happening in there, what the votes are. And you can see that this is now in this election. I can't change it because it's currently being proposed. But if it gets voted in, then it will take effect. So if we go back to our government menu, we should see here in elections, here's that election that's currently running. Election proposal, add constitutional amendment, and you can click here and you go to the voting page, which I'll show later. It should also show up here. So we have this new notifications panel, and this will show you any elections that show up that you can vote in, laws that get passed, all the different stuff that can happen in the game that's important will show up here. So if it happens offline, you'll have a nice way to kind of recap and see what's going on. This one shows you your work parties and your contracts, which I'll show in another episode. So we got this election. Let's win this election again. There we go. Add constitutional amendment completed. Motion passed. Results. Constitutional amendment 1 has been added. So we see here on our amendment object, now this thing is active, and the Constitution has been changed. So if we go over here and we look, this article has now been crossed out. We have removed this by constitutional amendment, and this is no longer in effect, but we keep it in there, as a way to kind of see the history of it. And if you look on here, you can see constitutional amendment. You can even track the election that passed it. So, this was passed via election at constitutional amendment. You can see the voting records for it, who started it. So one of the cool things about this government system is it generates this history. This history of events of how did the election go down, who proposed it, what were the debates that happened, how did voting happen, and you can access all that and see it. And after your world is finished, you have this rich history that you can kind of look at and see, like, okay, there's a great decision we made, or there's where we went wrong, and that's when the world started to fall apart. So so this has changed now. It tells you which ones replaced it. And now I no longer have those dictator powers. The world is safe again. And that's a little look at how constitutions work. Oh, one more thing I want to tell you about with constitutions. So right now, you can only have one active constitution in the world at a time, but it can be overthrown if another constitution is created in a building exceeding this one by 50% value, current building value 0. So this connects the government system to the housing system. So the value of your room determines how powerful your constitution is. So if somebody were to build a room, this one's 0 because we haven't set it up as a normal room. But typically this would be a pretty high value room, right? Like it's got a lot of great materials, it's got a lot of furniture and interesting stuff in it. So this would be pretty hard to overthrow. But if some other users came along and built a capital that was fancier than this one, they could actually replace the Constitution and overthrow it. And the idea with that feature is that because laws are binding in the game, there's, it's possible that you can get something, that's blocking the world and have no way to overcome it. If you get this like malignant government that's installed, that you want to remove it, and this gives you a way to do that. So, if you go through the trouble of making an even bigger, better capital, you can overcome the current government and create a new one. So that's kind of a first step in what we want to do in that direction, which eventually what we want to do is have multiple constitutions in the world, multiple nations. So lots of different towns will kind of set up their town charters and they'll grow into nations, and then maybe they'll combine. I did a Steam post on this a while back, but long term that's where we want to go. But for now we just have the one global constitution, but we do have a way to overthrow it. So let me hop into chat here. You can see some questions going on. So Prey Gaming asks, how is that value determined, and is it simply based on this value regardless of appearance? Someone could just dump blocks on its footprint to increase the value. So it's made using the housing value system, so basically the value of the room, which is a whole system in itself. We've had that for a while, but the idea is that the quality of the room materials, the quality of the furniture, whatever you have in the room is going to determine its value. So the bigger and more fancy it is, the more it's going to do. Tier value. So one person asked, when does staging start? Oh, so we are going to be doing playtesting. We're going to open it up to the public in stages. So if you're a long-time eco player, it'd be great to have you in. Chat on the Discord. We're probably going to get like 100 people or so for our playtest before we launch it live. So it'd be great to have your feedback. And all the feedback we've gotten from people, leading up to this update has been awesome. So it's been a really, really great time having the community contributing to everything. And that's, really think suits this type of game, right? It's a game about creating a community, so of course the community should be involved. Somebody said the building looks really sweet. Yeah, Anna did an awesome job on this. And one of the coolest things about this building, of course, it uses green energy. We got these solar panels up top. It's a little fun addition. But yeah, I really like these new statues. Rob made these. pretty sweet little animal implementations. Let's see. Someone asked, did you implement the system you explained a few months ago with villages, countries, world government? Not yet. That's going to be kind of the phase 2 of this government system. So we'll be playing that for a future update. Let's see. Is there damage going to be implemented by animals? For example, shoot a wolf, fail to kill, it get bitten, speed slowed. Yeah, actually 9.0 we're introducing. We have a lot of new predators in the game. Like we have jaguars, we have wolves. So you'll see animals that will attack you now. So that's something you have to be mindful of. Let's see. Oh, look, here's a jaguar crouching in the bushes right now. He's just hanging out. No, he is not happy. He's taking off. Yeah, so lots of new animals, lots of new animations and behaviors. It really feels like a different game in a lot of ways. You can see the new world generation we have. Here's a doe we have in the game, a mule deer. Yeah, it's going to be a really different experience for people to explore. Does that mean we can die in 9.0? No, we didn't implement death. Instead, your calories go down. Basically, they take a chunk out of you. We'll probably add more penalties later, like maybe you get a wound and you need a doctor to heal you. I think that would be a great addition. Animal traps is a good idea. We don't have that one yet. Performance is another big thing. This is pre our performance pass. So yeah, our goal is to get it significantly better performance than any other previous version, even with all this new stuff we've added. So assuming we achieve that, which I definitely think we're going to, you'll see really much better performance in this update and future updates. Are we going to implement animal taming? Yes, definitely. We'll be doing that, but currently on the list, nuclear power. Cracked Egg asks, I would love to implement nuclear power, and that's something we plan to do. Especially because it has such an interesting kind of community effect that it is a great power source, but it comes with this danger, it comes with this pollution risk, meltdown risk. So I want to capture all that in the game and really do it in a way that suits eco really well. Able to dump cars and truck beds off a cliffside. That is a really good idea. Actually, I hadn't thought about that, but if you want to have like illegal dumpers who just go and dump their tailings into a wetland or something, that would actually be a pretty interesting feature, because that's something you want to prevent with laws and punish with the law system. I like that. I will remember that idea. Cool. Well, I think we will call that a stream for now. So yeah, thanks for joining us, everybody, and feel free to tweet at me or email us or catch us on Discord, and yeah, leave us lots of feedback. And this is going to be the start of what should be a weekly event. I'll be posting blogs on all these different new features we have in the game, and then giving a tour in the stream. So super excited to get this out to everybody. And yeah, it's gonna be a wild ride. We got a lot more to show. So thanks a lot, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye.